There is a 3 a.m. that almost everyone knows. The room is dark. The world is asleep. And your mind will not stop. A conversation replays itself for the 10th time. A fear about tomorrow grows teeth. A thought you don't even believe keeps repeating, louder each time. 2,000 years ago, a Roman emperor lay awake with the same kind of mind. A formerly enslaved man in Rome felt the same tightness in his chest. A wealthy statesman, watching his own power crumble, fought the same invisible war you are fighting right now. They found a way through it, not by silencing the mind completely, but by understanding it. Today, we're going to walk through 7 of their methods. Real, practical, almost unreasonably simple. By the end of this video, you will not just understand anxiety differently, you will have tools you can use tonight. Stay with me. This one might change how your mind feels by morning. Welcome back to Wisdom of the Stoics, the home for anyone trying to build a calmer, steadier, more deliberate mind using ideas that have survived 2,000 years for a reason. If you're new here, we take the writings of Marcus Aurelius, Epictetus, and Seneca, and we translate them into something you can actually use, not abstract philosophy, but lived practice. If that sounds like something you need today, consider subscribing. There are people in this community who tell us these videos talked them down from real panic, real spirals, real 3 a.m. moments. You might be one of them by the time this ends. Let's begin. Let's start with the man who, more than any other Stoic, understood suffering from the inside. Epictetus was born into slavery. He had no control over his body, his location, or his daily fate. And yet, he became one of the calmest minds in human history. How? He made one distinction, and it changed everything. He said, "People are not disturbed by things, but by their judgments about things." Read that again, slowly, because it is the foundation everything else in this video will be built on. It is not the email that disturbs you. It's the story you tell yourself about what the email means. It's not the silence from someone you love that hurts. It's the meaning your mind assigns to that silence. Anxiety rarely comes from the event itself. It comes from the narration running underneath it. This means something is wrong with me. This means I'm going to fail. This means I'm going to be alone. Here is a small experiment Epictetus would want you to try. Next time you feel that anxious tightening in your chest, pause and ask one question: what actually happened? And what story did I just add to it? You'll often find the event was small, a delayed reply, a missed deadline, a strange look from a co-worker. The event is a fact. Small, neutral, survivable. The story? I'm losing them. I'm failing. I'm not enough. That's the part doing all the damage. This doesn't mean your feelings aren't real. It means your feelings are responding to a story, and stories can be questioned, edited, even rewritten, while facts mostly can't. Epictetus called this the practice of separating things within our control from things not within our control. Your judgment is within your control. The external event almost never is. This single habit, catching the story before it catches you, is the seed every other technique in this video grows from. Keep it in your pocket. We'll come back to it. Now let's go to Seneca, a man who had everything modern society tells us should make a person happy. Wealth, power, influence, closeness to an emperor. And still, by his own letters, anxiety found him constantly, because at any moment, all of it could be taken away. And eventually, it was. Seneca developed a practice. That sounds, at first, like the opposite of comfort. premeditatio malorum, the premeditation of evils. He would deliberately imagine the worst that could happen: exile, poverty, death. Not to frighten himself, but to remove the power those fears held over him in the dark, unexamined corners of his mind. Here's the psychology behind why this works, and why it isn't just stoic gloom. Anxiety thrives on vagueness. The mind fears the unknown shape of a bad outcome far more than the outcome itself. A formless dread, something terrible could happen, is almost always worse than a specific, named fear you've actually looked at. So Seneca's instruction was this: name the fear precisely. Look directly at it. Ask, if this happened, what would I actually do? And almost every time, you'll find an answer. Not always a comfortable one, but an answer. And an answer is something anxiety cannot survive, because anxiety needs ambiguity to grow. Try this tonight. Take whatever is circling in your mind right now: the meeting, the diagnosis, the relationship, the bill, and write down the actual worst case, not the spiral version, the real one. Then write one sentence: if this happens, here is what I would do next. You are not inviting catastrophe. You are removing its disguise. Seneca wrote to a grieving friend that we suffer more in imagination than in reality. And once you've looked the imagined version directly in the eye, it tends to shrink. This is not pessimism. This is preparation. And preparation is the antidote to dread. If you've ever found that naming a fear out loud made it smaller, tell me about it in the comments. I read everyone. And these stories help other people more than you'd think. Marcus Aurelius ruled the most powerful empire on earth, and his private journal, what we now call Meditations, was never meant for us to read. It was a man talking to himself, often at his lowest, trying to hold his own mind together. During wars, plagues, and betrayals, one of his most repeated reminders to himself was simple: confine yourself to the present moment. Here's why this matters so much for anxiety specifically. Anxiety almost never lives in the present. It lives in a future that hasn't happened, or a past that can't be changed. Marcus noticed this about his own mind, and he wrote himself a kind of mental anchor: confine yourself to the present. Try this small test right now while you're watching. Ask yourself, in this exact second, not 5 minutes from now, not tomorrow, am I safe? Is there a tiger in the room? Is the floor on fire? Almost certainly. The honest answer is, yes, I'm safe right now. That's the trick. Anxiety plays on you. It pulls your mind into a future that doesn't exist yet, makes you suffer through it as if it's real, and then hands the bill to your present body, your racing heart, your tight shoulders, your shallow breath, for a disaster that hasn't happened and very often never will. Marcus's method wasn't to ignore the future. He still ruled an empire. He still made plans, fought wars, governed wisely, but he trained himself to act in the present and worry in the present, refusing to let his mind live permanently in an imagined tomorrow. A simple grounding practice, drawn directly from his journal. When you feel your mind racing forward, list 3 things that are true right now, not predictions, not fears, facts. I am sitting down. I am breathing. The room is quiet. This isn't a trick to distract you. It's a way of physically relocating your attention back into the only moment you ever actually have power over. This one. He wrote this to himself during a military campaign, surrounded by genuine danger, and still, this was his anchor. If it held his mind together then, it can hold yours together now. Here's a piece of Stoic imagery that doesn't get talked about enough, and it might be one of the most useful tools in this entire video for performance anxiety, the fear before a presentation, an exam, a difficult conversation. The Stoics described a good action like an archer shooting an arrow. The archer trains. The archer aims carefully. The archer does everything within their control to shoot well. But the moment the arrow leaves the bow, the wind, the target's movement, the outcome, none of that is the archer's to control anymore. The Stoic measure of success was never, did the arrow hit the bullseye? It was, did I aim as well as I could? The arrow's flight belongs to the world. The aim belongs to you. Notice how much of your anxiety right now in your actual life comes from gripping the arrow after it's already left your hand, replaying the interview after it's over, rehearsing the text message after you've already sent it, worrying about how the presentation will be received after you've already given it your full effort. That's not preparation anymore. That's just suffering. Twice for free. The practice here is almost embarrassingly simple to say and genuinely difficult to live. Before the event, prepare fully. During the event, give your full effort. After the event, release the outcome, because it was never yours to hold in the first place. This doesn't mean not caring. The Stoics cared deeply about doing things well. It means separating your effort, which is fully yours, from the result, which never was. Ask yourself, the next time anxiety grips you, before something important, have I done what's within my control to prepare? If yes, you've already done the only job that was ever yours. The rest is wind. If this idea lands for you, hit like right now. It genuinely helps this video reach someone else who needs to hear it tonight. A large portion of anxious suffering doesn't come from events themselves. It comes from our resistance to them. We don't just feel pain, we feel pain and outrage that the pain is happening at all. This shouldn't be happening to me. This isn't fair. Why is this my life right now? Epictetus taught something radical. In response to this, stop wishing for events to be different and instead wish for things to happen exactly as they happen. He used the metaphor of an actor. In a play, you didn't choose every line you're given. You didn't choose every scene, but you can choose how well you perform the part that's actually in front of you, instead of the one you wish you'd been handed. This later became known by the Latin phrase Amor fati, love of fate. Not blind positivity, not pretending bad things are good. It's something closer to acceptance with dignity. This is what's happening. Fighting its existence costs me energy. I could spend responding to it well. Here's a practical version of this for anxious moments when something difficult happens. A diagnosis, a rejection, a loss. There are two layers of suffering. The first layer is the event itself, which often cannot be changed. The second layer is your resistance to the event having happened at all, which is optional, even though it rarely feels optional in the moment. Stoic practice doesn't ask you to skip grief or skip frustration or pretend you're fine. It asks you to notice when you're fighting reality itself, a battle that cannot be won, and gently redirect that energy toward the one battle that can be won. How you respond next. Marcus Aurelius wrote something close to this directly in his journal, that the obstacle in the path can become the path itself, if you let it, not despite the difficulty, through it. Here's something quietly devastating. If you really pay attention to it, most people would never speak to a friend the way they speak to themselves during an anxious spiral. If a friend came to you and said, "I think everyone secretly hates me. I think I'm going to fail at everything. I think something is fundamentally wrong with me," you wouldn't agree with them. You'd gently challenge it. You'd ask for evidence. You'd remind them of the times they were wrong about this exact fear before. But inside our own heads, we rarely offer ourselves that same basic fairness. Marcus Aurelius, even as the most powerful man in the Roman world, wrote himself letters of correction and reassurance, gentle, firm, almost parental in tone. Meditations is full of moments where he's essentially saying to himself, "Steady now. You know how to handle this. You've handled worse." This is the practice. When the anxious voice starts narrating disaster, pause and ask, "Would I say this to someone I love in this exact tone, with this exact certainty?" Almost always, the answer is no. And if you wouldn't say it to them, you're allowed to question whether it's true when you say it to yourself. This isn't about empty self-affirmation or pretending everything is fine. The Stoics were not interested in comforting lies. It's about fair self-talk, the same standard of evidence and gentleness you'd offer anyone else, finally extended to yourself. Try, just once, this week, catching the harshest sentence your mind says about you and asking out loud, if you can, "Is this fair? Would I say this to my best friend?" Often, just asking the question is enough to loosen the grip. One last tool, and it might be the most quietly powerful of all 7. Marcus Aurelius would imagine, in moments of overwhelming stress, rising above the earth, looking down at his empire, his armies, his own anxious mind from far above. Historians now call this exercise the view from above. From that height, the urgent crisis of the day, the betrayal, the war, the fear, became one small thread in an immense, ongoing tapestry of human life. This wasn't meant to make his problems feel unimportant or to dismiss real pain. It was meant to restore proportion, because anxiety, almost by definition, makes the immediate threat feel like the entire world, permanently, when it is almost never either of those things. Try this. The next time anxiety has your full mind in its grip, picture yourself rising above your room, above your street, above your city, higher still, until you can see the curve of the earth. Somewhere down there is your anxious thought, sitting in a small room, feeling enormous to the person inside it. From this height, notice how many other lives are unfolding at this exact second. How many people have survived something just as frightening as what you're facing? How small and how survivable your current crisis actually looks from far enough away. Then come back down, not to abandon the problem, but to face it with proportion restored. Most of what feels unbearable at 3 a.m. looks different by noon. Most of what feels permanent is not. Marcus knew this from the throne of an empire. You can know it from wherever you're sitting right now. 7 tools. An enslaved man who became free in mind before he was ever free in body. A statesman who lost everything and still found steadiness. An emperor who wrote himself back to calm in the middle of the night page after page, for years. None of them eliminated anxiety completely. That was never the goal, and it isn't yours either. The goal was never a mind that never feels fear. It was a mind that knows what to do with fear when it arrives. So tonight, if the thoughts come back, and they probably will, because that's what minds do, you now have 7 doors you can walk through instead of one dark room you're trapped in. Question the story. Name the worst case. Return to the present. Release the arrow. Stop fighting what's already happened. Speak to yourself like someone worth loving. And when it all feels too big, rise just for a moment and look down. If even one of these help tonight, I'd genuinely love to know which one in the comments. It tells me exactly what to make more of for you. And if you want more of this, a calmer mind, a steadier voice in your head, 2,000 years of practice behind every video, subscribe and turn on notifications, because we publish these every week for exactly the nights you needed one. Until next time, be steady, be kind to your own mind, and remember, you have survived every difficult night that came before this one.